Not only was I late in getting onto StreamYard, I forgot to hit go live.
I need one of those little movie clacker things, take two.
Yeah, like snap it down.
Uh,
I was late because I was talking to Jonathan Crow over at Ninja One and getting our account set up so we can test this one line of code we need to make so you guys can import from Ninja directly into our software. So I hope it was worth it. Most of you guys watch this recorded anyways, but I did invite a bunch of people who are really good at planning for this particular session just to participate in the thread. There's a lot of you out there who have a hard time. Like you get January started and you have no plan. Your plan is to make it through the year.
Yep.
And you'll go day to day. So, we have a number of project managers and advisors and coaches who I have tagged on this thread because I want you guys to have somewhere where you can go and say, hey, how do you set up quarterly goals for an MSP?
Mm-hmm.
There's some great people that will help you do that. And help you understand how to run your business. So ask the questions below. See if you can't get connected with one of them. And you will find that when you have a plan for the year for your MSP, don't worry about your clients right now, but for your MSP, you will feel so much better at the end of the year, even if you missed your goal, because you worked towards something.
Mm-hmm.
And in the next year, you can adjust and iterate. And there are ways to go about this that actually make sense. And there are ways to go about this that are really, really, really poorly thought out.
Yep. And, this is, January, just the way things work. This does tend to be a bit of an introspective time, December and January for a lot of people. And many times I think people find themselves at January frustrated because the previous year didn't go the way they wanted. And when you start thinking back, you go, but I wanted to do this. And you think back to the previous January and you're like, I was going to do this and I was going to do that. And that's great. That's the start. But you didn't do, the next step was to create a plan on how to do those things. So it's not just having a vision and, defining what you want to do. It's a matter of mapping out some steps, some smaller milestones to get there. If your goal is just go to the grocery store and, get more milk and bread or whatever, that's an action item and that you can just map out. But when you have something that is going to have a building process to it, you've got to work on those steps. So you may have started last January with good ideas and are frustrated this January. So your improvement item here is work on those ideas again, but now start mapping it out. Start building what you want to do.
Yeah. And I'm putting a comment here to put in the thread is people are too busy to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm too poor to save money. There's these little things out there where you have to start somewhere where if you're too poor to save money, start saving a penny. And eventually save $1 and eventually save $10. If you're so strapped for time that you cannot plan, that's why you're strapped for time.
Yes.
I'm telling you 100%, as somebody who is terrible at managing a schedule, I have to live by my calendar. Yep. And if I don't, I will never get anything done. I will forget. So if it's like, hey, I need to get these 2 accounts to my bookkeeper, I put something on the calendar because otherwise I will forget. I'll just push it off indefinitely. And so whether it's working with your clients or working with your staff, you have to plan, and that builds confidence. When you just walk into a client and host a QBR or walk into a client and just talk about the thing that came up that day. We're going to talk about assets, which PCs are expired, which licenses you need to buy. And you didn't say a month ahead of time, it's like, hey, in a month, we need to sit down and talk about budgeting and making sure that we're helping you with the self build out.
Mm-hmm.
There, you're building confidence with the client. You're also building confidence with your internal MSP staff because they feel like you as a leader have a direction you're going and you have a plan. Now, as Skip could tell you, like, I always have a plan. Like, I have a plan for plans. Like, that's my strength. I have a backup for my backup. If crap does not work here, I've got a backup for that. And so that's my leadership style. Like I always have a plan. And so that builds confidence. It's better than working for a leader who is the MSP running well? Yeah, we're making money.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Are you going to work towards a niche this year? Are you going to add on 10 new clients this quarter?
Mhm.
Are you finally fire those needy clients and offboard them?
Yeah.
What is it that you are trying to do? So here at Humanize IT, you can go on to our events section of our website, and I can tell you exactly what we're going to talk about week by week. Skip and I have been building this for 5 years now.
Yeah.
Week by week, what we're going to talk about, and we'll follow that. We'll deviate every once in a while, but it's pretty keyed in to the point where, like, I think it still says 2024 right now. Because all I'm going to do is copy and paste for 2025. Because it's pretty keyed in. And you can do the same thing for your clients. They can know that in quarter one, you're going to do planning sessions. In quarter two, you're going to reevaluate their infrastructure. In quarter three, you're going to do cybersecurity. In quarter four, you're going to do road mapping. And then you're going to follow up with planning sessions in January.
Yeah.
When your client sees that level of confidence, they are going to be more likely to talk to you and ask your advice. When your staff see that level of consistency and confidence, they're going to be, oh, wow, I really like working here. It's predictable. It's got a place that's going forward. I like this.
Yes.
So you set expectations for everyone, your staff and your clients, and you have a plan to work on this year.
Well, let me kind of dive in really nitty gritty here. You said a really key word there, and it's building the plan. All right. If you want to do the time boxing thing, look at your calendar. All right, I need to do this. Yeah, that sounds great. I've got 45 minutes, later this week. I'm going to build my plan for 2025.
Yep.
That's not going to happen. All right. Start, but that's going to be an ongoing process. So this weekend, I had a personal objective, and it kind of came out of the blue. It wasn't one of these New Year's resolutions. It kind of this thing that popped up, like, autofocus on this and the series of steps. And so I started, and I used OneNote of all things, right? Because it just had a workflow that I could work with, and I'm going through and I'm saying, all right, this is what we want to do. And then a few hours later, because I'm kind of working on this, turn this over this way and that. And I'm like, oh, we could add this to it, and we add this. And this process goes on. And I even came back later and I renamed the plan, right? Because as I thought about it, it was slight. It started out as reinvent, all right, and I ended up as naming that my OneNote, but it became the name of it. I changed it to replace, right? Because it better reflected the thought process that I'd been through, and so that's kind of a really short sort of thing. But those sort of business goals for yourself are going to undergo some refinement. You are going to start working on that. And as you get into those, you're going to, oh, well, if we do this, then we're probably going to need to change this, or we might need to reset our expectations. Or the really fun part is you get into those and you go, hey, if we do this, it's actually going to open up this new opportunity. And now you got really exciting stuff that you weren't even thinking about. So yes, start, but don't look at it as a start finish sort of activity. It's a start and continue function that you need to be working on for those plans.
Well, that's an iterative process, right? We want to start a plan. Again, as if you don't have enough money to save money, start with a penny. And so when you need a plan, start with that half an hour session. For a half an hour on Friday morning, I am going to map out a quarterly goal for all 4 quarters. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what it is. This quarter, I am going to make sure I give one of my employees a bonus. It's something simple. Yeah. As long as it's something, start there. Or this quarter, I'm going to call or walk to 5 new clients and talk to them about how I am focusing on medical offices and I really want to help them too. Mm-hmm. Set your goals. It doesn't matter. It can take a half an hour. It can take 10 minutes. Don't have 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Yep. Don't have 5 minutes, pull up a notepad next time you go to the bathroom and write down 2 goals. Do something. You have time. You're just so stressed. You think you have less time than you do.
Yep.
So reach out and find that, talk to a project manager. If you want to really go out and do this right, grab a project manager and sit down with them and have them help you. Reach out and get like a traction coach or one of those business coaches where they can walk you through it and say, hey, let's start basic. Let's get you going in a direction so that you don't have to worry about firefighting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And January is a great time to think about this. You can start this at any time throughout the year. The question is you won't, because you're going to be so busy. You're going to forget. Yeah. In January, everybody's thinking about what their New Year's resolution is going to be. It's top of mind for everyone. What are you going to start new? In October, people are talking about cybersecurity. In December, people are talking about Christmas and gifts. Different times of year have different themes. Leverage that. Mm-hmm. Use that motivation to get this started. So in the description for this event, it's like, you're so tired of not having time. You're doing everything day to day, living hour to hour. Who's going to call you now? It's because you've never planned. And so all of that free time you have got filled by other people and other things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you structure your time, they can't fill that in. And there's that famous illustration of the jar. If you have an empty jar, you put rocks in it first. It's not full. You put smaller rocks in it fills in the gaps. You put sand in, it fills in those gaps. And you pour a beer in last, and there's always room for a beer.
Yeah.
And the idea is if you pour the beer in first, if you leave that jar empty and you forget to put in those important things first, you put the beer in first and think, oh crap, I need to create some goals. And then you put a couple of chunks of rock in there, everything overflows. And it makes a big mess. You're like, oh crap, now I got to clean up this mess. So you get a towel and you start cleaning up the mess. You're like, okay, well now I need to get these little tiny goals in here. Put the little tiny goals in, more beer spills out, and you start cleaning that up. And that's how a lot of you guys are running your companies.
Mm-hmm.
Is you're not putting the important things in first, and you're constantly spilling and making a mess with your employees, with your clients, and you're wondering why you're spending all this time playing cleanup.
Yep.
And what we want you to do at the beginning of the year is start setting things on your calendar. What is important for this year? Do any clients have big expectations of you this year? So in the SaaS world, everybody wants to know what's our dev schedule. And I've got that worked out. I need to put it on a website somewhere is what I need to do.
That's
right now it's in the spreadsheet. And so people know what to expect. I know that I need to have these things done by this time. I need to have this amount of money to build these things. And I need to talk to Ninja One to make sure I have the dev environment ready.
Yeah.
I've got to coordinate things. But if I wait until the last minute, the dev calls me and goes, hey, where's your dev environment? I'm like, oh, crap. I need to get a dev environment. So I go out to Ninja One. I'm trying to get a dev environment going. In the meantime, my dev's calling me. I've got support requests coming in. I've got prospecting to do. And I'm just juggling it all very poorly.
Yep. And the timing, this season is another element you can leverage. So, everyone's coming back off the holidays, especially with this calendar, the way it fell, with holidays kind of hitting in the middle of the last 2 weeks, it really, I think upended the business flow more than normal. And so now it's kind of a fresh start. And I can almost guarantee you're seeing things pop up and you're like, oh, this again, right? You kind of had a mental break from it the last few weeks. You're like, and you'll jump out there like, all right, we got to fix this. And you'll start with a very impassioned and maybe a little bit too much impassioned view on those, but that's okay. I mean, again, back to this building, planning, being intentional about it, put it out there, you get that request in and it feels like it's the straw that broke the camel's back from that client. You're like, that's it. I'm done. I'm firing those guys. I can't stand to look at them anymore. Right. And so, that's your goal. Fire these clients. Well, put that out there and then start working it out. What's going to be the process on doing that? How are you going to, make sure you got to cover the revenue? There's lots of things that could go into that. And what you might find as you get down there, you're like, I probably don't need to fire them. I probably need to schedule a meeting with the owner and we need to reset expectations.
Yep.
Right. And so now you've, made that what might've been an impulsive or at least an impassioned, start, but you've been able to turn that into what can work out to be a very productive engagement or activity. So the bottom line there is seize the opportunity now. The timing, everything that's coming in, take the opportunity to start that planning process.
Yeah. And to just start and to say, hey, this is going to be on there. Like, I need to talk to this client. We need to level set. That is a great plan. Get it on the calendar. Don't say I'll talk to them someday. Someday never happens. Yeah. Someday I will have my tickets prioritized. Someday I will talk to my technicians about using this tool instead. Someday never happens. Get on schedule. I will do this on Thursday at 2:00. I will do this in March on the third Thursday at 10 a.m. with this client. Set a SMART goal. It's a trope for a reason. It feels like it, but it works.
It was so funny. You mentioned that. I wasn't going to say anything because I don't know. It seemed kind of cheesy. But this thing that I was working on this weekend, I was kind of breaking it all down. And, I knew, all right, I need to be specific here in what we're going to accomplish.
Yep.
And as soon as I said, my mind specific, I went, well, there's the S.
The rest of them.
And the cool part about that is I had to start thinking about that. I said, when I got to the A part, I was like, okay, really, how does this fit in here? And it forced me to think about that in some different ways. And so it can really lead you in a few steps that you might not hit just intentionally, or accidentally. It can help you be very intentional about that process.
Yeah, and that structure's like why we talk in our coaching so much about SMART goals, SWOT analysis, and people are like, oh, that's cheesy. Like, okay, you can call it cheesy, but it works, and it gives you that structure. If you're having a hard time planning goals and you find yourself behind the gun all the time in firefighting mode, it's because you're a bad project manager. Sorry. That's the way it is. I am a bad project manager. Adam Walter, I will fully admit this. And I know that's my weakness. SMART goals, having that framework, as Skip said, you start thinking about what you're going to do. And you're like, oh, crap. Okay, when am I going to get this done? Can I actually get this done by March? Am I going to have the resources for this? I'd love to have this massive thing done in the software by next week. Okay, the devs aren't going to be ready. We don't have the funds to pay for all the components that go into this. And you can go down the list. Like, okay, how do I get to those? And so you start thinking like, well, by the end of January, I need to make sure that this is scoped out for the sprint coming up in February. Okay, now I've got time. And it's achievable. Wait a minute. Do I have the resources available? Yes, the devs have said they have 60 hours that they can pour into this in February during that sprint cycle. Awesome. Okay, now can I pay my devs and buy the resources we need to get this thing done? Okay, I'm going to need to save a few more dollars. I'm going to cut back on this expense in January, so I have this in February. Now when February comes, I'm not in firefighting mode. I am now following the plan that past Adam made and is in place.
Yep.
And that is how planning out your year gets you out of firefighting mode. But you have to do it today. You can't do it tomorrow. You have to do it today or schedule a time to do it. You can't say, oh, that's great. I'll do that sometime. As soon as you say that, you fail. Number of people have told me like, oh, I'd love to have Humanized IT as a software product. Come back to us in 6 months. Like, what's going to change in 6 months?
Yeah.
We are a project planning tool, people. when you tell a project planning tool that you're going to come back in 6 months, I want to know what's going to change. And I think I have maybe one MSP who's been able to answer that question.
Yeah.
Which tells me that in the MSP industry, that there is a large swath who think that things get better just because time has passed.
Yeah.
I will switch over to a new RMM when I have time. Yeah. No, you'll switch over to a new RMM when the cost gets too high and it becomes painful.
Right. When you have really no other choice.
When you have no choice. So now you're at the whims of fate. I will switch over and I will buy this new RMM tool or PSA, or I will hire this new technician when I get around to it. I'll do it in 6 months. Okay. Let's see. 6 months from now is July. What happens in July that makes hiring somebody easy? Is it all the vacation time people are taking?
Yeah.
There are certain cycles of the year where it's really easy to hire people, and there are certain times of the year when it's hard to hire people. Is July one of those times? Okay, so now start being deliberate about what you're doing. Be intentional about how you're spending your time. Don't just randomly say in 6 months, in 4 months, in 2 weeks. No, be deliberate. What is going to happen in 2 weeks that will allow you to accomplish this goal?
Yep.
This thing that you want to be able to do. I've watched so many MSPs walk away from money because they're like, I don't have time to make money right now. I'm too busy.
Uh-huh.
That's
it. That's it.
It's nearly those words that I hear from you people. I know I need to sell more. I don't have time to create a sales plan. Like, do you hear yourselves?
Well, and so let me let some of you off the hook on that. You're thinking, yeah, that's good, but I'm not quite sure what I need to do. And you see all the possibilities, or a huge roadmap that you could do. And you look at that and it just seems so big. And you're like thinking, all right, there's no way I can do that in an hour. I need 4 hours, and so now you're looking for an afternoon to block out on your calendar to tackle this big giant thing. And you don't have an afternoon to block out. But here's an interesting deal. Start with 5 minutes. Spend 5 minutes just focused. I mean, leave the phone in another room. There's a little icon down there in your tray. You can actually turn your network off for a few minutes, 5 minutes, and start that process.
Yes.
Now, at the end of that 5 minutes is a really good chance you're going to have some good things to continue with. But even if you don't, if you've written those down, you'll have a good expectation, and you come back, I think I can spend an hour kind of digging into those things, and I'll get a lot done. And the first step really begins to narrow your scope. All right.
Yes.
Just the first few steps can bring this huge giant thing down into, well, first of all, we're going to have to do this one thing. Right. And none of the other stuff matters. So you get to focus on whatever that one thing was.
And getting a momentum is where that starts, right? You just got it started. Oh, now I'm excited to think about all the possibilities. If I were to go knock on these 5 doors, I really think I can win over that company over there because of a relationship, because of this. You gave it some thought. So now you're excited. And that's how you got to think about this. And so planning out your year today, start thinking about, what do you want to accomplish? What do you wish you would have accomplished last year in 2024? Why don't you have goals this year? Because you just haven't planned.
No.
And you just need to say, I will do this on Thursday. I will do this like right now. I'll make up an event for you guys. You're going to do this tomorrow at 3:00 over your favorite beer or whiskey or soda.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do right now. Go onto the calendar on January 10th at 3:00, grab your favorite drink, and you're going to spend 10 minutes thinking about your entire 2025 and what you want to accomplish by the end, or what's the one thing you want to accomplish by the end. Have something written down by 3:10 on 1:10 of 2025.
There we go.
If you have problems, reach out to anybody I've tagged in this post, and any of those people are able to give you advice on this. Solid people.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming on. This has been a great year. We had a big release in December with a major auto task upgrade and a major new feature where you can create tickets from our software. We're looking at doing some really cool things here in the first quarter with a couple like Ninja RMM, IT Glue, being able to import assets from both of those, being able to smoothly see webhooks on our projects and move text back and forth. So some things that you guys have all been asking for. If you have any other ideas that maybe are not on our roadmap for this quarter, let me know. They might be on quarter 2 or quarter 3. But we're excited about where we're going, where we are, and how far we're going to take you. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.